talked about peak oil, he talked about chemo, he talked about global warming,
With skillful
he talked about
manipulating of
UN, he
press,
talked about the NWO.
they're able to make the victim
They're
look
prepping
like
for mega.
the criminal, and the criminal look like the victim.
Once the red carpet gets rolled out for this New World Order program, everything is free game.
I welcome you to Make It Plain TV.
You still don't get it, do you, boys? There ain't no countries anymore. No more good guys. They're running the whole show. They own everything, the whole goddamn planet. They can do whatever they want. What's wrong with having it good for a change? Now, they're gonna let us have it good if we just help them. They're gonna leave us alone. Let us make some money. You can have a little taste of that good life, too. Now, I know you want it. Hell, everybody does.
You do it to your own kind.
What's the threat? We all sell out every day. Might as well be on the winning team.
As a physician, I received an email last week from the Department of Health coaching me on how to fill out death certificates. And I've never really received coaching from the Vital Statistics Agency in terms of how to do a death certificate. But basically, I felt like they were saying, you know, you don't have to have a confirmed laboratory test for COVID-19 in order to make the death certificate be COVID-19.
What's going on, man?
How you doing, sir? You down in Dallas, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry I had to walk off the unit real quick.
Yo, it's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
Okay. So
But
what's
yeah,
some
man,
of the stuff you're seeing down there, brother?
want to let you know, man, it is true. People are like getting these, like I'm in the x-ray room right now. And you see that, man, they're not even doing chest x-rays or anything. They're just, if you come in off of just, if you coughing, sniffling, COVID-19, hey,
Wow.
straight up.
Most of you missed this important story from 2 years ago where this Commander Timothy J. Cunningham, an Epidemic Intelligence Service officer, came up missing for a couple weeks. What we're gonna do is pull this back layer by layer because the government is running a fear campaign to make you all go beg for vaccination. So I'm gonna have to break it down layer by layer, real slow, for most of you socialized, miseducated individual who do no research and widely depend on mainstream media to keep you conditioned slaves. Now don't be intellectual lazy and just take whatever I say and run with it, then regurgitate it. Do your due diligence by doing your own research to protect you and your family. This is wartime. But before you go run out here for these vaccinations, pay attention and do research.
The mystery begins with this report that came out weeks before Dr. Cunningham went missing. Disastrous flu shot is causing deadly flu outbreak. A CDC doctor has warned this year's disastrous flu shot may be responsible for the deadly flu epidemic sweeping the country. Some of the patients I've administered the flu to this year have died, the doctor said, adding, "I don't care who you are, this scares the crap out of me." We have seen people dying across the country of the flu, and one thing nearly all of them have in common is they got the flu shot. Scientists were worried this year's flu season was going to be rough, and their fears have been proven well-founded. The flu season is off to a record-breaking start, with the CDC reporting widespread flu activity from coast to coast. Many health officials believe that 2018 will ultimately be the worst flu outbreak that we have experienced since 1918.
It's called the Centers for Disease Control, but there are serious concerns tonight about how well the CDC controls dangerous germs at its own labs after yet another safety lapse. Today, the CDC says it mishandled a shipment of deadly flu virus. This comes after a mishap involving anthrax and the discovery of smallpox virus that was misplaced at the National Institutes of Health. The head of the CDC today, Dr. Tom Frieden, said, quote, he was astonished at the latest breach and angry. Here's Dr. John LaPook.
For the third time in a month, the CDC acknowledged deadly pathogens were handled incorrectly in government labs. CDC Director Dr. Tom Frieden.
So I'm upset, I'm angry, I've lost sleep over it, and I'm working around the clock to make sure we do everything possible to resolve it.
In the latest case revealed today, CDC workers somehow lost track of samples of the dangerous H5N1 influenza virus. The virus wound up being added to a shipment in March from a secure CDC lab in Atlanta to one run by the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Athens, Georgia. The CDC says both facilities are highly secure and nobody was ever at risk. This comes just after 60-year-old vials of smallpox virus were found in a cardboard box at this NIH building in Maryland. Test results revealed today showed some of the virus is alive. And last month, the agency reported lab workers may have been exposed to live anthrax after sloppy procedures were used at a CDC facility.
The sudden disappearance of 35-year-old Timothy Cunningham has left heartbroken loved ones and colleagues baffled, and an old dog named Bo longing for his best friend. Monday, the acting CDC director issued the agency's first statement since the epidemiologist left his office at the CDC facility in Chamblee in the middle of the day, exactly 1 month ago. Dr. Ann Schuckett saying, in part, if Tim reads this message, we hope you come home soon. But the acting director also took time to clarify issues regarding Cunningham's career. In the statement, she refers to news coverage that Commander Cunningham recently did not receive a promotion. This information is incorrect, she says. Dr. Schuckett's statement goes on to say Cunningham received an early promotion and exceptional proficiency promotion to commander effective July 1st, 2017. That statement contradicts what Atlanta police said during a news conference on February 27th.
I think that it was pretty consistent that he was definitely upset. He told several co-workers that he was and that he was expecting this promotion. So we don't have any doubt that he was upset that he didn't receive the promotion.
Last week, Cunningham's father released these photos of Tim's July promotional ceremony. Monday's statement from the CDC surely validates the family's efforts to set the record straight, saying over and above any of his assignments at CDC, his early promotion within the United States Public Health Service reflects his excellence as an officer and an employee.
The flu virus continues to grip the nation, according to reports from the CDC. The virus has now claimed the lives of 53 children. Trinity Chavez has more tonight.
This nationwide flu outbreak is showing no mercy, and it's also showing no signs of letting up as the death toll increases.
We're seeing increases in total deaths from pneumonia and influenza, primarily in adults. So unfortunately, hospitalizations are increasing, as are deaths.
From closing schools to overcrowded emergency rooms, the list of influenza cases keep growing. The CDC's latest influenza report shows that at least 53 children have died this flu season, including 16 just last week. An 8-year-old from Queens died Monday after being rushed to the hospital with flu symptoms, and another unidentified child in New York passed away due to flu-related illnesses as well.
It's a major threat right now. 1 out of 10 people dying the past week died from pneumonia or influenza. We are seeing a year where it's quite challenging to handle the flu.
The CDC reports that nearly 15,000 people have been hospitalized for flu-related illnesses. That's double the number from last season.
As of this date, at this hospital alone, we've seen 432 cases of flu. The year prior to that was in the 40s, so in the mid-40s.
Brian Herndon of Fort Worth, Texas, barely survived the flu and pneumonia. After being hospitalized over 4 weeks on a breathing tube, his organs shut down. Blood clots forced doctors to amputate both of his feet and 9 of his fingers.
This year, we're seeing the H3N2 influenza virus dominate. Years where that strain dominates tend to be more severe. We've also seen that the vaccine against the H3N2 viruses tends to be less effective than vaccine against other strains. Those two combinations probably account for some of the severity.
Dallas County has just reported its 6th flu death of the season, a 60-year-old patient in Dallas who died from complications of the virus. As with other flu deaths, the county is keeping medical details confidential, including whether the patient had underlying health problems. Texas is one of 21 states with high flu activity, according to the Centers for Disease Control. And this map shows you the flu is impacting most of the south and western regions of the U.S.
Here in the U.S., hospitals from California to Georgia have been setting up special flu tents to cope with the influx of patients. Over 4,000 deaths a week in the US are being blamed on the flu.
It's hard to make enough capacity at times to see all those patients, so we've ended up putting up what we call a disaster tent or a surge tent. We put it up January 3, and what we use it is for overflow for our patients.
And it's not just the young and old that are getting very sick.
I was throwing up all night, and I thought it was something more serious than the flu, because I've never had the flu like this before. I've never had to throw up or even come into the hospital for the flu.
The X factor for public health, the World Health Organization, adding to exist illness called Disease X to its annual list of public health concerns. That list includes Ebola, Zika, and SARS.
In the United States, there is now a confirmed case of a superbug that no antibiotic can apparently combat. A Pennsylvania woman has developed an infection that officials call, quote, a nightmare bacteria. CDC Director Dr. Tom Frieden sounded the alarm today, saying that this antibiotic-resistant strain could be, quote, the end of the road for antibiotics. Let's bring in CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, do we know how this woman became infected, and what do we know about this so-called nightmare bacteria?
Well, we don't know how this woman became infected. What we do know is that she went to a clinic. She was not in the hospital when this bacteria was found. We also know that she hadn't been traveling overseas, so this isn't something that could have been brought back from another country, for example. So typically what happens is when there's a lot of antibiotic use in a community, bacteria become resistant. This particular bacteria, something known as E. coli, something we've talked about a lot, does have a lot of different classes of antibiotics to try and treat it, at least 7 different types of antibiotics, not just antibiotics, but entire classes of antibiotics. And this particular bacteria didn't respond to any of those, and that's the big concern. I will tell you, Jake, people have been anticipating something like this happening for some time, and we don't know that for her, her immune system may still fight off this bacteria, but I think it's a little bit of a indication of what might be to come, more of these types of bacteria.
And what does it take to theoretically develop a new antibiotic that might be able to fight this new strain?
Well, there's sort of 3 ways to look at this. One is that are there existing classes of antibiotics that you bolster up, that you make more powerful? The class of antibiotics works, it's just not strong enough.
Youngstown police were busy this weekend fighting not only crime, but also raccoons. Police got several calls from homeowners about raccoons in their yards. But in this case, investigators don't believe they had rabies. First News reporter Molly Reed has been looking into this story and is live tonight with some important information.
Yeah, Amanda, you can see we're right on the edge of Mill Creek Park here, and if we turn this way, this is Old Furnace Road, and you can see there's some houses down here. Now, this is one of the areas where police and the city have been getting a lot of complaints about these raccoons that they say are, quote, acting strange. Now, I talked to one of these homeowners down the street, Robert Coggeshall, and he's actually a wildlife photographer, and he took some of the pictures when he was out in his front yard, and one of these raccoons approached him and his dogs. He said that he was walking around, the raccoons started following him, and then they went inside, and he eventually got someone over to euthanize it.
Stand up on his hind legs, which I've never seen a raccoon do before, and he would show his teeth, and then he would fall over backwards and go into almost like a comatose condition. He'd be that way for a few minutes. He'd come out of it, walk around, and then he'd do the same thing again. See a raccoon give them a wide berth because they can move surprisingly fast if they have to.
And again, Robert had a couple friends that do work with wildlife. He called one of them over, and they actually euthanized that raccoon in the backyard. But there's been several calls this weekend to Youngstown police where the police officers actually had to go to homes and euthanize the raccoons. Now, we did talk to ODNR today to find out what is going on. If this is not rabies, what is this disease, and how...
If you haven't heard about chronic wasting disease by now, then you may already be a zombie. This neurological disease has been taking a toll on deer populations across the country and may have the potential to affect humans.
There are Washington officials, especially those who work in the intelligence agencies, that are flocking to these doomsday camps and partnerships in them, places called the Fortitude Ranch and others. That one is near D.C., and it helps people prepare for pending doom. Here now, Dr. Drew Miller. I was going to say Dr. Doom, but you're not. You're Dr. Drew Miller, CEO of Fortitude Ranch and a retired Air Force colonel. Doctor, good to have you here tonight. So what is Fortitude Ranch? How does it work?
Sure. Fortitude Ranch is a recreational and survival community. So in good times, we're a great place to go to vacation and hunt. But in bad times, we're a survival retreat, a place where you can go to survive a pandemic or a long-term electrical outage or some other disaster that leads to a collapse in economic activity and loss of law and order.
And you're genuinely concerned that this is something that we all need to be prepared for.
We absolutely do. Government is not prepared to handle a pandemic. Government officials will be protected. We're not that far from Mount Weather where government officials will go. Wealthy people can go to places like Survival Condo if you have millions of dollars. But most of us will be on our own with the loss of law and order from a pandemic or loss of the electrical system. Police won't be able to protect you in your neighborhoods. There's going to be gangs and people out there marauding for food. And so you need to be able to protect yourself.
But horrible. It's horrible to imagine. But these are growing. How many Fortitude Ranches are there around the country? I know you don't say exactly where they are, but they're mostly in the middle of nowhere, right?
Well, we locate in remote areas. We're in West Virginia, west of D.C., and we're also in Colorado, and we're raising funds now to expand across the U.S.
And how would you characterize interest in them? Has it exploded over recent years?
It's been high and it keeps getting higher. The North Korean threat is bad. For example, former CIA Director James Woolsey warned last year that just one North Korean nuclear weapon that's optimized for electromagnetic pulse exploding over the United States could take down our electric system, not for weeks or months, but for over a year.
So if you're
the former CIA Director warned.
If that happened, I just want to, how long could you survive at a Fortitude Ranch if this unforeseeable, horrible incident were to happen?
Well, we produce our own food, so we can last forever. But as Admiral Woolsey warned, if there's this kind of an attack and the electric system goes down, there'll be societal collapse. There won't be law and order. There'll be mass starvation. He estimated that up to 90% of the U.S. population could potentially perish in a disaster like that. And the worst threat we face is pandemics. We're overdue for a natural pandemic, and there are bioengineered viral pandemics that could just cause a catastrophe that we can't imagine today.
This has been uplifting. I want to thank you.
They told me that we're calling about a story. We were told that a person died at your facility with the coronavirus. And I said, no, that's not true. I haven't heard that one. And she's like, well, the family said that it was true and that she went to the ER and that she had died of the coronavirus. And I'm like, I hadn't heard that story. Well, come to find out, the person that they were talking about, she was an 89-year-old lady. She was hospice. She had been hospice before this whole pandemic even came about. She had like morphine and everything like that. And then so she just happened to die.
Right.
She just happened to die. She didn't die from the virus. She was 89.
Right.
So, I didn't tell them anything, but that was one story. Another story was my friend. She had like a flu, the coughing and the congestion and all of that. They never even took a chest x-ray. They never even swabbed her for it, because to swab somebody, you have to do it for like 20 seconds. It has to be sent out. It takes a few days and it has to be cleared by the CDC. Well, they're running really low on the kits anyway.
Right.
So she said they sent her home, and they sent her home with a Z-Pack, a prescription for a Z-Pack, the antibiotic. And she said, and on that paper, it had COVID-19.
Wow.
So that happened 2 times for someone that I know personally and a patient that I had here that just died from old age.
Wow,
so that is a very true story.
I spent a lot of time looking at conspiracies that take place that are not really perceptible. From every perspective. And those are the conspiracies against African Americans in medicine in the U.S. There's a very long, sad, dramatic history of this. And some of that history that I want to illuminate for you in the context of understanding why so many people, African Americans and others, look at American medicine and see a very negative agenda toward African Americans that colors their behavior today. Very often one reads about the negative response of most African Americans to medical research, for example. And it's true. The studies, the numbers are all over the place. But one of the more convincing studies said that about 85% of African Americans, cutting through all socioeconomic strata, expressed a profound distrust of medical research in the U.S. What's interesting to me about that was it also said that 51% of white U.S. citizens expressed the same fears. And these fears are based on what many people would have called conspiracy theories. They didn't subscribe to them. They didn't think they were abuse. And I certainly do. I think it's really important to understand that African American medical profile was carefully constructed during the Victorian era. It was constructed in many ways. There was natural law that spoke of the natural inferiority and rightful place of African Americans. There was Christianity, which condemned African Americans as the children of Ham, cursed by God, doomed to inferiority, and to be a servant to their white brethren. And, you know, their Enlightenment musings, not so enlightened when it came to people of color very frequently. Africans were savages, noble or otherwise. But, of course, it was science that was becoming ascendant. Science was becoming the primary way of knowing in the Victorian.
Support us by sharing, liking, and subscribing to the new Black media channel, Make It Plain TV. This channel is dedicated to benefiting you by educating you through enhanced digital technology for social, cultural, and political, economical development by using social commentary on social issues or news stories. If you like this video, hit the like button. Don't forget to share and subscribe to Make It Plain TV.
Era. And so it's the views of scientists that are most important.
More watching the news, more listening to the news, more bullshit. I was driving in the car and Fox News was on. And the person that was on was saying, you know, if we have to, you know, push this till the end of the summer. And it's just like, so are all of us around the world in our country just supposed to lay down and die at the expense of a fucking virus that is not a pandemic by any means? If you don't realize yet that you are being lied to about the numbers, about how you're catching it, about all of this, you need to seriously research and research now, because the complicity that is going on is really scary. So basically what whomever is in charge here, all they have to say is, you must stay in your house, you can't do this, you can't do that. All of your rights are taken away from you. And everybody's complicit. Everybody's like, okay, well, what should we do next? Should we open our windows and jump out so we don't catch the virus? Because we'll do that. So at what point do we say, we need to fucking stand up together and take charge of this whole thing? Our lives are being ruined right before us. And we're all just complicit and in agreement to it. I don't think I'll ever see another event like this in my life. I can only hope that I don't. But the fact that we are also complicit is very scary. The fact that people are afraid to be near other human beings is I don't even actually have a word to describe that. You go into the food store and everybody is looking around at each other and moving away from each other. So because our government tells us this boogeyman out there is going to get you if you are close to another human being, that we all go along with this. So then when our government also tells us that this boogeyman is gone, then we can go back to our normal lives. We could sit next to people. We could shake hands. We can hug. What kind of sheep shit is this that we are all allowing to happen? I'm not saying people don't get sick from this or are not getting sick from this. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, where the fuck are all of you when people by the hundreds of thousands are dying per flu season? Do you walk out of your house with a mask wrapped around your face? Do you walk around your house, out of your house, fearing for your life? Does the government care about you then when you're dying of a flu that comes around every single year? Do they care? No. Do they care when millions of people annually die from cancer, heart disease, obesity? If they gave a shit, half of those things that are in our food that are what's making most of us sick wouldn't be allowed. They would be banned like other countries. Half of the ingredients that are in our food, they're in our food supply, are banned in other countries. So if our government actually gave a shit to save lives, it would start with the food that we eat every single day. Tell me that I'm wrong, because I'm not. If they gave a shit, would you have all these crazy chemicals in Roundup? How many people got cancer because of Roundup? They're being sued by the billions. How many people get sick from powder, baby powder, Johnson & Johnson? They've been sued. I don't know how many times. All these things that are around us every single day, our soaps, our lotions, our skincare products, the clothing that we wear, everything that is surrounding us is making us sick and slowly poisoning us to death. So what makes you think that now all of a sudden they care about a virus that kills 1 in every 1,000 people? What makes you think that all of a sudden they care? And that this isn't about something way bigger than a virus? Our whole economy is shot to shit right now. People are losing their businesses that they worked their entire lives for, and they'll never recover from it. What is the solution to that? So you're going to tell me that because we can't even believe whatever the death toll is. We don't even know, because they're lying to us and they're falsifying death records, death certificates. So we don't even know how many people are really dying from this. But it does not warrant shutting down the entire world. So at what point do we say, we're not doing this anymore? At what point? When you watch your mother, your father, your sister, your cousin kill themselves because they can't make ends meet anymore. At what point do we stand up and say, this is fucking crazy, these numbers are not adding up for all this to happen? At what point does that happen? Because this is beyond anything we will ever see in our lifetime again. And the fact that it was so easy for the government to say, we're going to get everybody to stay inside, let's see what happens. Let's tell them about this boogeyman and see what happens. Surely enough, roads are empty. Surely enough, people are not leaving their house. Surely enough, people are scared to death to visit their own family members. My own family members won't go see other family members because of this. The amount of depression, the amount of suicide, that the suicide rate is going to go up. What's going to happen when there is civil unrest, when people finally say, we're not doing this shit anymore? We are going back to our lives. We are not free right now in a country that is founded on our freedoms. And the fact that we are all just complying to everything that's going on just goes to show the government, like, we can do whatever the fuck we want. And they're not even going to rebel. So they want to extend this. Oh, well, just to the end of April. Then it's going to be middle May. Then it's going to be, oh, we have to go to mid-June. Then it's going to be the whole summer. And then what? We just sit in here and rot away? Is that what we do? Is that who we are? People that don't fight back? Where are all of the patriots that are in Q movement and that are fighting all the time for this? I hope that there is a time very soon that people are saying, we are not doing this shit anymore. And it's funny because some people have been messaging me and saying, like, oh, you know, you're a like a political activist. And it's just like, If you look at the rest of my page, it's not dedicated to that. But I've always had a big mouth. I've always been a truth seeker. I've always wanted to teach people the truth about things, about food, about things that go in your body, that go on your body, your environment. And now it is political because we now have lost our freedom. So now it does become political. And we also know that a big chunk of this is to take down Trump because they tried everything else to take him down and nothing else worked. And now this is at our own expense to ruin the economy for some fucking election. This will probably be the worst thing that we ever see to our country as a whole. Not as individuals, but as a whole. Because they're rolling out tanks in some of these major cities. What then? You're telling me that they're rolling out tanks so that they can give us food? Like, we're basically receiving welfare checks from the government. And they're telling us how we can live. You can have this amount of money so that you're not going to be able to pay your bills, but so maybe you can survive at that. You have to wait in line outside of a fucking food store to go in because of this boogeyman virus that's going to get everybody. We need to wake up, and we need to wake up now. We can't wait another 3 weeks. We can't wait another 2 months because people don't have that kind of time. People mentally don't have that kind of time. So if this word needs to get shared, share it. Share it because other people need to hear it. Because we're too complicit and we follow whatever the mainstream media tells us, and they are the enemy of the people. And that is the end of the story. They're not on your side. They don't care about you. They never did. They never did. If they did, this world would be a much different place. There's a cure for every disease known to mankind. There's a cure out there. Do you have it? No, but you're watching your family suffer and die from a disease that already a cure exists. Wake up. We need to wake up. Because I'm not light and bubbly anymore, because the conversations that I've been having with other people that are on the same page as I am, we're all thinking the same thing. They don't want us in large groups because we can't congregate together and talk about this shit. But guess what? We have a social media platform that will reach out to far more people than my little group of 10 people that I might have this conversation with. So there needs to be more people that are speaking out about this shit because it needs to end. There's way more of us than there is of them. How much longer are we going to allow this to happen? All they talk about is the vaccine. Well, the vaccine is going to help so many people. What? Are you kidding me? A vaccine? My immune system will fight it off just fine. Thank you. How many billions of dollars are being sued to the pharmaceutical companies from people that have either died from vaccines or has caused some crazy immune disorder or whatever else? There's a million other things. So you keep trusting the people that are killing us day by day. You keep trusting the people that are allowing chemtrails to fly in the air and allowing us to breathe in toxic heavy metals, among other things that are cancer causing. You keep believing them. See where it gets you. It's not getting you anywhere. Clearly, we're all stuck in our houses. Comment below. Send a DM. Thank you to everybody that's sending me DMs, because you enlighten me to other things that I haven't seen. So thank you for that. Sorry I'm feisty today, but this shit's got to stop. And it can all start with the power of one person. And then it can just multiply by the millions, hopefully. Thanks for watching.
In world news, here's what little we know. Peace. Assalamu alaikum, family. Brother Reza Islam right here with some magnificent information and a beautiful turn of events that you more than likely didn't think was going to happen for another, I don't know, ever. Please pardon the stubble. I have been in a quarantine study time chamber. That is a Dragon Ball Z reference for those who don't know. Well, it seems that Mr. Bill Gates, along with many different funders, have now been dumped. Officially. The United States government has now, according to the Surgeon General, decided to get rid of the model that they were going to use, which was Bill Gates, which is everybody's going to get vaccinated. Well, according to the Surgeon General, the numbers have been inflated, exaggerated, or should I say not true as it pertains to the deaths of the people. And it shows that in the majority of states, people have been doing exactly what they need to do. And the numbers of deaths have been dwindling, and they have not been dying anywhere near as fast as the numbers have been reported, or should I say the projections. So the Surgeon General said that the projections were highly exaggerated, but the actual data that we are currently now working with shows the true numbers. And it shows that these are looking so good to where we more than likely are going to open up states sooner than we thought. Just so we can understand, Donald Trump has now officially stated that the World Health Organization will not be receiving funding until further notice, and the money is going to go to things that are actually needed. And there are at least 29 states that are looking so good, looking so progressive, to where they are more than likely going to be opening up a number of states at the end of April, if not the end of May, and for some, the end of June. And no, we will not have to be vaccinated. At least that's what they're saying right now. Oh, Mr. Bill Gates, along with Dr. Fauci, along with the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have all been overridden, outvoted. You're not going to have it your way, according to Donald Trump, according to the Surgeon General, according to the United States government. And so now they are going to be opening up states, and we are going to be able to return to business, not as usual, but it should be business better, more progressive. We should have learned a lot during this time, but also understand that this move is so huge that the government, different areas are now fighting against one another. We might want to pay close attention to what's really going on here. In so many words, Donald Trump and the Surgeon General have both stated that basically the CDC has been lying. You know that thing we've been saying for a long time, when you tell people that they're conspiracy theories simply because they operate along with facts and data and evidence and science and studies that are actual studies and not based off of money, but based off of the better interest of the people and humanity and all of those things that we are all a part of, but sometimes we may forget depending on how much money we're offered. How many of you are running around here parroting, and I know some of you had good intentions, sincerely, a lot of you truly did, I know that, but at the same time, be very mindful of where you get your data from. And when you are telling the people, oh my God, everyone, stop doing what you're doing, wear these masks and put on these gloves, I understand, wash your hands, okay, we should have been doing that before this, but I get it, all these different situations. And when you push this fear based off of virtually no real data, but lies from the same enemy who lies about virtually every damn thing, you make a fool out of yourself, whether if you intended to or not. And for those of us who really understood what was going on and looked at it, and all we did for the majority was push solutions, not band-aids, solutions, just in case it was more real than what people were saying, because it absolutely was and is real to a degree, but not to the degree that they were pushing the fear about it. The mainstream media has lied so much, it is insane. And doctors were getting paid to go along with it. The sad part about all of this is with the Event 201, sponsored by Bill Gates, with the movie Contagion that people were pushing everywhere, with all these other movies, Outbreak, and all of the investment dollars that they put into drumming up this entire situation, this predictive programming, this thing that they were doing for years. They have been actually planning to do this for years and years and years. It's failing more than it is being successful. Why? Because God intervened, people are waking up, the consciousness is rising among all members of the human family, and it didn't work for them like they thought. So just be very mindful that when you're running around here listening to what all of these mainstream sources say to you, a lot of the time, I know we don't think this, but a lot of people who are in the professional realm of medicine don't know what they're talking about. And it's not they just don't know what they're talking about. No, they were taught to lie without knowing that they are being taught to lie. They were lied to themselves. And because of that, they're simply perpetuating what they have. You should all understand by now that this was a heavy marketing and promotion for vaccines. By pushing the fear, they create the circumstance, then push the fear, watch the people go crazy, and then they provide the so-called solution, which of course is a miracle vaccine, which we all know vaccines, or we should know, vaccines are not the end-all at all. They are not the ultimate panacea or the cure-all for anything. In fact, it is pushing a disease to cure a disease. For whatever reason you think that is scientific is up to you. But they know that the immune system is the only way to go. But because the pharmaceutical industry was losing money, they had to use vaccines because after the passing of the 1986 Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, you could put anything in a vaccine and you could not be sued for it. So for them to make money, they would push vaccines, but they have to push fear in order to get people to accept vaccines as a part of the ID 2020 program. As a part of the Healthy People 2020 guidelines, they need to have 90% of the U.S. population vaccinated. As a part of the National Security Study Memorandum 200, as a part of Global 2000. And everything that they're trying to push goes towards, of course, total control, which, of course, we know Bill Gates as it pertains to the mass controlling. That's the ID 2020, and he's using that technology along with drones and all these different things to push massive surveillance of every human being in this country and really the world. So it's not working because people are waking up, and of course the overall end all for them is depopulation of at least 2 to 3 billion people on the earth, but these billions of people across the planet are waking up. That is the beauty of it. So a good old happy day to us, and to us as a people. But just understand, the fight isn't over completely, but the beauty is that we are waking up. So become educated, keep your immune system up, get ready for your states and cities to be reopened, God willing, very soon. So don't get back to business as usual. Let's come out evolved, educated, and ready to do things bigger, better, in a united manner that will bring us into true freedom, justice, and equality. Oh yeah, save the best for last. You thought you had the people, but God got us. You plan, and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. You're gonna put some respect on the people of God's name, you know what I'm saying? All right. Even try to make a move and put black people as the face of this, even though we absolutely are not the face of this, but you try to switch it around to us so that you could target the inner city black and brown and impoverished communities because you knew that the idea of helping the poor and the sick is a very big deal that the government absolutely would have to put money behind. But it was a lie all to begin with. I mean, it was, oh, hey, look, y'all slick, but you're not slick enough. For anyone who is still behind this idea that the whole world needs to be vaccinated in order for it to go back to normal, let me just say this. Number one, Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, any other individuals by the name of Dr. Fauci, and anyone else who believes this, we recommend that you all show us and lead us by example by taking all 69 doses of 16 vaccines that are on the CDC schedule along with the experimental vaccines that you are currently working on near Emory and the CDC and whatever other vaccines that are coming down that pipeline, the over 100 new ones that are supposed to be rolled out as a part of the Healthy People 2020 system. We recommend you take all of those and we will watch you take them, and if you survive, we will congratulate you. But other than that, knock it off. Who thought we forgot about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Robert De Niro, who offered up $100,000 to any of you billionaires or scientists or doctors or nurses or lawyers or politicians who are promoting these vaccines? They offered $100,000 for any of you to take all of the recommended doses of these vaccines, and they will give you the money. Nobody's claimed that money yet. Yeah. When the people unite, the deep state can't win, the shadow government can't win, the enemy can't win. Unity is the way. The devil can't fool us. Nah, not nowadays.
This channel is dedicated to bringing truth to power and engaging our enemy with intellectual warfare. The dominant society will never switch up their playbook, so we must make a new one. The war we find ourselves in is a technological war, using technology, propaganda, and psyops to oppress and control you. Black intelligentsia, please share the new black media, counter propaganda arms, Make It Plain TV.